Now let's talk about the TRX G Wagon situation and what has really helped me kind of make a decision. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over the off-road vehicle fleet, I guess is what we will call it now. Every single YouTuber calls their collection a fleet, so I guess we gotta, we gotta stay with the norm. But anyways, I recently made a video about potentially selling the TRX. I talked about the pros and cons of selling the truck in that video, and I've pretty much made a decision at this point. And so we're going to talk about why I've made the decision that I've made. And so I'm going to actually get into the money associated with all the vehicles. I'm going to talk about taxes. I know, not the most exciting thing. I'm going to talk about vehicle appreciation, and I'm going to talk about YouTube revenue as well. And so it should be a pretty exciting, well, not exactly an exciting video. I guess if you want to know more about like business and YouTube and stuff like that, it'll be very exciting. But if you don't, then I guess it won't be all that exciting. So let's just get right into it. So let's quickly go over the off-road fleet before we get into the exciting financial stuff. I know, exciting video. Anyways, first off, we've got the 2021 Ram TRX. Has almost 14,000 miles on it. This is the oldest vehicle in the quote-unquote fleet. This is one of the first TRXs ever produced, and it's probably one of the most famous TRXs out there because it was one of the first to break down, and I've just done a ton of crazy stuff with it, and it has a pretty cool build on it, with the front and rear bumpers and with the light in the racks and all that, or rack and all that kind of stuff. And then we've got the Jeep Wrangler 392 with the Extreme Recon package. So it's got 35s from the factory, has just over 500 miles. I haven't done anything with this from a content perspective, really. It's been in a lot of videos, but yeah, haven't taken it off-road, haven't done anything exciting with it. I'm gonna be getting it wrapped pretty soon. And so after I get it wrapped with paint protection film, then I'll be taking it off-road and testing it out and everything. So there's a lot to be done with this vehicle. And then we have the Gen 3 Raptor. Oh, by the way, this is a 2022. This is a 2021. It is a Gen 3 Raptor with the 37 Performance package, and it's got just over 4,000 miles on it now. I've done quite a bit of off-roading with the truck, but I haven't modified it all that much. It basically has a wrap and mud flaps and a bed liner. That's it. I want to do front and rear bumpers just like the TRX and a chase rack. I basically want to turn this into a Shelby Baja Raptor is kind of like the whole goal. And so I don't know, it'll be a pretty exciting build. But yeah, anyways, that is the little off-road fleet that we're going to be discussing in today's exciting video about taxes and investments, and yeah. Let's get into it. This next section in the video is going to explain why I am going to be making the choices that I'm going to be making. The first thing that we're going to talk about is value add. Whenever I purchase vehicles, I'm always looking at the value add from a resale perspective with those vehicles. And so I focus on only buying vehicles that are very difficult to get, that are also typically selling for significant premiums over MSRP. And I talk about a lot of this stuff in the car buying course. And so I'm not going to dive too deep into this. I'm actually working on a whole new lesson for the course as well that just goes super deep into this topic. And so we're just gonna graze the surface. Again, all you need to know, I focus again on vehicles that are slightly going up in value that are very difficult to get. And you look at all of the vehicles I have right now, and that is exactly what they represent. You've got the Ford Raptor, which go to a Ford dealership, good luck trying to order a Raptor right now. The dealership's gonna say, hey, our wait list is years long. And also you gotta pay $10, $15, $20, $25,000 over sticker if you want a Raptor. Same thing with the Jeep Wrangler, except it's a little bit of a different situation. What a Jeep dealership will tell you is, we have a wait list, you might get one, but also Jeep is discontinuing this engine, and so you probably aren't going to be able to get one. And of course, the sun decides to go behind the clouds when I'm filming, so the light just changes a massive amount. But anyways, they're going to tell you, hey, you might be able to get one, but probably not. Also, you got to pay over sticker. And then with the Ram TRX, there's actually been some discounts recently, but again, the TRX is going to be discontinued in about a year or so, or maybe even earlier than that. We don't know if there's going to be a 2023 model year yet, but two of the vehicles I own, those vehicles are going to be discontinued in the very near future. And then the third vehicle that I own has so much pent-up demand for it that the values are just going to stay sky high for a very long period of time. And that is exactly what I focus on. And again, I did make a video talking about how my vehicle collection has beat the stock market because of vehicle appreciation. If you want to see a little bit more about that, just look up Ben Hardy vehicle, whatever. I think I put my car investment portfolio beat the stock market, and then watch that video if you want to deeper dive into that topic. But that's the first thing, is I focus on value add. Now, the next thing that we have to talk about is taxes. I know, but this is something that I look at as a business owner because it's very important. And this is why I don't purchase sports cars anymore. You guys remember when I first started the channel, I always had like a truck and a sports car. I don't do that anymore because it doesn't make sense from a tax perspective or a content perspective, frankly. Everyone wants to see content on trucks and SUVs. Sports cars, they want to see reviews on them, but that's pretty much it. But pushing that aside, trucks and SUVs are king from a tax perspective because the write-offs are much larger if you use it for business use. Obviously, you got to emphasize business use. And again, this isn't investing or business or tax advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, as YouTubers say. But all you need to know is I only purchase vehicles with a gross vehicle weight rating of over 6,000 pounds. And what that means is I can write off the entire vehicle. Now, as a business owner, I can choose to do the entire write-off the first year, or I can choose to depreciate it over several years and then eventually depreciate 100% of the value over several years. You have to figure out what works best for your business, what makes the most sense for your business. But all you need to know is, right, I can depreciate 100% of these vehicles, so that is a huge tax benefit. So if I buy a vehicle that has a gross vehicle weight rating of over 6,000 pounds, and let's say it's $50,000, boom, I get a $50,000 tax write-off. And I'll get into some numbers in just a moment that apply to my particular vehicles that are in the garage, so you guys can actually understand some of the figures associated with them. But if you look at like sports cars and stuff like that, right, they don't have a gross vehicle weight rating of over 6,000 pounds. If you buy the car brand new, you can depreciate like 35% of the car's value roughly. So the write-off is a lot smaller. So you're not getting nearly as large of a tax benefit. So that sucks. But then you say, hey, Ben, what if you lease the car? What does that do? Well, what that does is that means that you get to depreciate the entire lease payment. But the reason that I don't lease cars is from a business perspective. This is just my opinion personally. That is throwing money away that I could have potentially made down the road. And here's why. So let's say that I have a lease payment on a car that's $500 a month. So that's $6,000 per year. So that means I'd have a $6,000 tax write-off at the end of the year. And I get to drive a car. That sounds fantastic, right? That sounds like a win-win. But then when that lease is over, I don't get any of that money back. But let's say instead I went and purchased a truck with a gross vehicle weight rating of over 6,000 pounds and depreciated the entire truck, right? That first year. I get a big tax write-off. And then if I ever decide to go and sell that truck, yes, I do have to recoup the taxes. That I basically have to show that as profit on my income for that year that I sell it. So it's not like you get a write-off and then you never have to pay those taxes. If you sell a vehicle, then you got to pay taxes, right? The government's always going to get you. But the point that I want to make is you have a chance to get your money back. So let's say that I buy a truck, $50,000, write off the entire truck. And then let's say the next year I go and sell it for $50,000. Well, from year to year, it's pretty much gonna be a wash from a tax perspective. It's like I saved taxes this year, but then the next year I'm gonna pay more taxes. But then I got my money back from the vehicle from a value perspective, right? I didn't actually spend any money on the vehicle. Yes, I paid taxes, but I didn't spend any money on the vehicle. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a little bit confusing, but that's why I buy and don't lease, and that's why I only buy trucks and SUVs at this point. Now, before we talk about these specific numbers associated with my vehicle collection and what I am basically basing my decision off of, that I will tell you guys at the end of the video. I know I'm making you guys wait. Let's talk about the YouTube ad revenue stuff, or just YouTube revenue stuff associated with the vehicles. So I'm going to use stocks and real estate as an analogy to best explain this. So if you invest in the stock market, then you know that certain companies will pay out dividends. This is basically a certain amount that the company is giving you every single year. It's part of their profits. They're saying, hey, thanks for being a partial owner of the company. We're going to give you part of the revenue. And that is basically translated into a percentage. So maybe they'll pay you 5% per year. Maybe they'll pay you 2% per year, so on and so forth. And then from a real estate perspective, when people invest in real estate from a rental perspective, they look at rental income similar to what stock people look at as dividend income. It's, quote unquote, passive income, right? And they basically take the rental income and they turn that into a percentage based on the property's value, all that, well, what they paid for the property rather. And then they see that as their yearly return on that property from an income perspective, a passive income perspective rather. That's how I look at my YouTube videos. Now I understand that YouTube isn't truly passive, but there isn't really a true form of passive income, because if you want to make solid passive income from stocks, you have to do a massive amount of research to determine which stocks are the best ones to buy to earn you passive income. And it's almost like a full-time job figuring that out. And then from a real estate perspective, same thing. You have to do a ton of research. And, you know, especially if you're gonna be buying houses, there's a lot that goes with buying houses. Yes, you can get a management company, but obviously that's going to cut off of the bottom line in terms of your personal profit. But the point that I'm trying to make is, even though everyone calls those quote unquote passive income, they aren't truly passive. There's a lot of work and time and effort that has to be put into those two particular types of investments for you to end up getting checks cut to you every single month in form of dividends or rental income. Now, how that relates to my YouTube videos is I look at my YouTube videos in the same way, the videos that I film with these particular cars that I purchase. So let's say that, just to make math easy, I purchased a $100,000 car. I then look at how much revenue the videos make that are associated with that car, and that is my rate of return per year. So let's say that the videos, just to make math easy, make $10,000 in a year. That is a 10% return that year on that particular vehicle. And so I use that in conjunction with the value add and the tax write-off that I get for those vehicles to determine how valuable that vehicle is to me from a rate of return perspective. And now we will get into some of the numbers with my vehicles. We're going to focus on the TRX when we're talking about these tax benefits, because this is the vehicle that I've talked about potentially selling. So we got to see what the TRX is actually doing for me. So we're going to assume that the paid value of the TRX is $100,000 because it's a nice round number. Now, we obviously talked about the tax write-off side of things from a business perspective. Now, I put a tax range because it'll change state to state, and I'm trying to make this video be a video that'll help other people that are business owners. And so I put the range anywhere from 30 to 50% because I assumed if you're going to be buying a vehicle that's $100,000, you're probably going to be taxed at least 30 to 50% based on income that would be able to afford a $100,000 vehicle. And so what that means is, by buying the TRX, right, for the average business owner to be able to afford it, they're going to be saving themselves anywhere from $30 to $40 to $50,000 in taxes. Now, that doesn't mean that they're still technically saving money, because you're still spending money. A lot of people get tax write-offs mixed up. They're like, oh, it's a tax write-off, so you're just saving money. It's like, no. You are saving money, but you're also still spending money. So the way that I look at it with the TRX, let's just make math easy and say 50% is what you'd save from a tax perspective. That means that you're still spending $50,000. And so you have to ask yourself, would I rather have a $100,000 vehicle in my driveway and pay $50,000 less in taxes, right? Or would I rather have $50,000 in my pocket and then put that towards some other type of investment? You have to ask yourself that question, right? I can't answer that question for you, but that's the first thing. And then we obviously talked about the value add side of things. So with the TRX, this is the worst vehicle investment. And so my value add on the truck has only been about 6%. It's worth 6% more than what I paid for it right now. I think that percentage is only going to increase as time goes on. Once the truck is completely discontinued, the values on the TRXs, I think, are just going to absolutely skyrocket. But there's a 6%. So we, again, from a tax perspective, we're anywhere from 30 to 50% there in terms of our basically gains on our money. And then we have that value out of 6%. And then when we look at things from a YouTube perspective, it would take me forever to go and, basically take all the money that I have produced from all those videos and put it into a percentage. But let's just assume, for today's video's sake, to keep math simple, let's just say it's a 10% return. Let's just say the video's made $10,000 off of the TRX. And so if you add the 6% to, let's just put it in the middle from a tax bracket perspective, 40%, and then to the 10%, that means that the TRX, right, has had a 56% return by owning the vehicle, which is massive. That's way more than what most people will get in the stock market. That's, more than what most people actually get in real estate as well from a value add perspective. So you guys can see the TRX actually, even though it's a vehicle which is not considered a traditional investment, has actually been a pretty good investment for the channel. Let's talk about the TRX G Wagon situation and what has really helped me kind of make a decision at this point. So if you look at the taxes, again, with the TRX, it's going to save someone on average anywhere from 30 to 50%, which is anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. Now, I put the cost of a G Wagon at $190,000. It is a vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating of over 6,000 pounds. So if you do 30 or 40%, that's either $57,000 in tax savings or $76,000 in tax savings. If you do 50%, that is $95,000 in tax savings, right? Now, if you add up the savings you'd get with the TRX and the G Wagon, saying that I would just buy a G Wagon and keep the TRX, that means that my total savings in the 30% range, 30% bracket would be $87,000. In the 40% bracket, it would be $116,000. And in the 50% bracket, it would be $145,000 in terms of savings, which is pretty crazy to think about. Now, if we go from that to assuming that I trade the TRX for the G Wagon, I basically say, you know what, I'm done with the TRX, let's get rid of it and let's just buy the G Wagon. The difference number between both the vehicles is, again, in our example, is about $90,000. So that means that in the 30% range, my tax savings would drop down to only $27,000. In the 40% range, it would drop down to $36,000. And in the 50% range, it would drop down to $45,000. And so what this basically means is if I sell the TRX and buy something like the G Wagon, then I'm only going to be saving myself anywhere from $27,000 to $45,000 in taxes. But if I keep the TRX and then just add another vehicle to the fleet, then I would be saving myself anywhere from $87,000 to $145,000, which is a huge difference. If you guys want raw numbers in terms of the difference, the actual difference numbers is anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 to $100,000 in savings, again, depending on the exact tax bracket that everything ends up in. And so what that means for me from a business owner perspective is it actually doesn't make sense to sell the TRX, because if I sell the TRX, I lose something that is still technically making me money from a content perspective. And on top of that, I'm not going to get as big of a tax benefit as what I would get if I basically just kept it and then bought another vehicle and then just lowered down the overall tax burden. And then on top of that, if we look at the value add, again, you guys can just go look at the G Wagon market. It is absolutely crazy. There's a value add on the G Wagon as well. And so then that would also increase the rate of return on the whole, quote unquote, vehicle portfolio. And so it's just kind of like a win-win-win-win all over if I just keep buying and don't sell anything. I know it sounds weird, but it is what it is. So that is going to sum things up for today's video. I know this video is kind of confusing and it's probably going to leave a lot of people kind of like scratching their heads, but hopefully I explained that well enough that you guys can kind of understand my whole thought process on this. And so after going through all of the numbers, I've basically come to the conclusion that, again, I shouldn't sell the TRX, I shouldn't sell the Jeep, and I shouldn't sell the Raptor at this point. And I should add another vehicle this year to the fleet that has a gross vehicle weight rating of over 6,000 pounds to lower my overall tax burden, and then to basically add a vehicle to the vehicle investment portfolio that will have a value add and then will also be earning me not passive income, but quote unquote passive income through YouTube videos. And so again, I know on the outside it looks crazy, but then once you kind of look at things, behind the scenes a little bit, it makes sense. But if you're stopping for the first time, please subscribe, comment down below what you guys think, and I will see all of you in that next video.